It is quite possible, and I don't like to make predictions, but I'll just keep it short. A time will come when thought as we know it, as conceptualization and words going through your head, that won't happen anymore. And humans live continuously in stillness, a state of great intelligence and of deep inner connectedness with being. And at that time, if there are still schools, they will be teaching very different things from now, of course. If there are still schools, you might hear something like a little 5-year-old asking, "Teacher, is it really true that once human beings existed who thought that the future could be better than now?" And the teacher says, yes, they existed once, unbelievable as it may seem. If they still speak, but in that state they won't be speaking anymore. There will just be the immediate communication beyond words. Okay. Enough of that. This is where that new state is emerging. And all teachings ultimately point to that. Take no thought for the morrow. Course in Miracles seem to be full of thought, and yet it takes you in the end into stillness. The end of words has almost come, it says towards the end. The teaching of Krishnamurti. What is the essence of Krishnamurti's teaching? He's never said it. Don't think. All he said was, let's look at thought. Can thought get you there? Let's investigate thought and let's look at it and until finally you arrive at, no. And he himself, for those of you who are familiar with Krishnamurti, was a great teacher, would spend a large part of his life when he went for walks every day for 2 or 3 hours and said, not touched by a single thought during the whole walk. Not needed, just stillness. The essence of Buddhism is that. Ramana Maharshi, the famous teacher in the first half of this century, what is the essence of his teaching? It's contained in his words, which was an answer to the question, how can we judge our spiritual progress? How can we know whether we are making spiritual progress? And his answer was, the degree of absence of thoughts is the measure of progress on the spiritual path. Oh, and the minds don't like to hear that. There's some people who say, no, he didn't say that. And you have to show them and say, yes, there it is. Ramana Maharshi was a great Indian teacher that some of you are familiar with. I'm just pointing that it's all going to the same essence. Nisargadatta, they asked him, what's the real meaning of meditation? Of course, the real meaning of meditation is the changed state of consciousness. And his meditation, he said, the radical refusal to harbor thoughts. He was a bit like a Zen master. So the radical refusal to harbor thoughts. It's a masculine approach. The female is the gentle. You relinquish thought. You let go. And then there's the female, the male is the Zen is also male. There's no thought. I refuse to have thoughts. Now that could be mistaken for suppression of thoughts. And it could be that if it's not practiced rightly. Now, that is also a powerful statement for those of you who are inclined that way, the male approach. And now this is meaningless unless there's enough presence in you already through which you understand that statement. There cannot be the radical refusal to harbor thoughts if there's not enough presence in you. The fact that you can say no to thought means an enormous amount of presence is arising, or you're suppressing through willpower, in which case you won't be rid of thoughts for very long. When the body becomes tense, okay, I'm not thinking. And then after a while you blow up and then you think more than ever. But if there's a true thing that is the radical refusal to harbor thoughts, and that simply means great presence arising in which that becomes possible. I don't need thought. And a thought comes in and just, no, don't want it. So in whatever way it comes, it may come in a more gentle way through you. Thought becomes less important, less heavy, and gradually you move out. So this is the teaching, whatever. You will only teach one thing, just as I teach one thing. It's moving beyond thought. The cessation of thought as the basis for your life. And that is, which is the title of a book by Krishnamurti, that is the awakening of intelligence, true intelligence, great intelligence. If this were a Zen monastery, we would be spending the whole night in rigorous meditation. That's the male approach, facing the walls, and we would open the windows to make it really uncomfortable. And you would experience the arising of suffering. More in the head than some pain in the body, yes, cold perhaps, but most suffering is in the head. You're complaining about this dreadful situation. Until you can't stand it anymore. And there's the possibility of a moment when thought subsides because you can't stand that burden anymore. And it goes. Oh. And all that remains is then cold and discomfort in the body, not a problem. You're free of suffering. All suffering came out of that. Surrender has happened. Complete yes to what is. This moment, cold, painful body, hungry because we didn't have much to eat. This is this Zen ones. I'm hungry, I'm cold, my body is painful. Awful place. What am I doing here? And suddenly thought subsides. And it's just this. And suddenly thoughtless awareness is there. And then perhaps after 10 minutes, you say, Master, Master, I've got it. And then the Master says, drop that. because it's become a concept again. If any questions arise concerning the teaching of that one thing, framework, one-on-one, groups, while you listen, just listen. Listen. Spacious listening.